Hi, and welcome to another tutorial from Imagine Landscapes Designs. Today we're going to be talking about the knitted cast-on, and we're going to be talking about the knitted cast-on in the context of making ear flaps attached to a hat brim. So we've got two ear flaps, the first one that we worked, and then we broke the yarn or cut the yarn, and we're just going to put that aside for the moment. And with the second ear flap that still has the working yarn attached, we are going to simply knit the first stitch. So the knitted cast-on has the virtue of being something we're all very good at it. We're already good at knitting. So you're going to knit the first stitch, and rather than pulling it and letting that stitch fall off the left needle tip, we keep it on. We place the loop back on that needle. Now, some methods of the knitted cast-on would have you twist that stitch to do that. I find that when I do that, it creates like a loopy bottom of the cast-on, and that does not work for me. So I knit the stitch, I grab it, I pull it up, and I place it on. You do need to sort of tighten it as you do that. So depending on whether you're knitting continental or English, you may notice a difference in how you're tightening, but the key thing is not to tighten too much, because if you tighten too much, this edge right here, the cast-on edge, will be too snug and you won't have any play in it. So you're looking for something that isn't super tight as you go. So just keep going like that. So if you are a thrower, you would knit the stitch as usual and then just work it up and place it on and tighten it a little bit. So we're going to knit the stitch as usual. I am not as good at throwing as I am at picking, so this is always a little awkward for me. We're going to pull the yarn through, place it up, tighten it a little bit, and go on. So we need to do 16 stitches. We had 5 for the ear flap, so if you lose count of how many you're casting on, because maybe you're talking in a tutorial or chatting to your neighbor, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then any leftover stitches are the ones for our cast on. So I will fast forward along through this work and see you in a moment. All right, now that we have our 5 plus 16 stitches, what we need to do is we need to transfer this needle into our right hand, and we are now going to use it to knit across ear flap number 1 and join them up together. So this stitch here with the yarn coming from it to work on, we are going to place here closest to the needle tip rather than over here where it would be farthest from the needle end that we work on. And then using the working yarn coming from the right needle here, we are going to knit across. So using the yarn from the right needle tip here, we're just going to knit across this 5 stitches here. And then we are, of course, going to do another knitted cast on. So we're going to put this back in our left hand, and then we're going to cast on the stitches for the front of the hat. So this back of it goes ear flap, back of the hat, ear flap, front of the hat. The front of the hat has fewer stitches than the back of the hat, so that the ear flaps are going to be pushed a little farther to the front, and so that the gnome will have the ear flaps visible from the front as opposed to just sort of having half of the ear flap visible. It's going to be a little well, a little cuter is the plan. So we're just going to knitted cast on 10 more stitches, join to knit in the round, and then we will purl the first row, because we're going to be building on the garter flap or garter ear flaps that we started. We're going to keep the brim in garter to keep things nice and unified visually. So I wish you best of happy knitting and happy gnoming. I'll see you in a clue or two. Bye-bye.